And welcome to a sunny day in Perth, WA. That's right, we made it all the way up from Albany to get this thing on the dyno, but there's just one problem. The brakes, they're completely fried all the way around, and they pretty much said they need them so they can do the test drive. But there's also another problem. The old original coils, they have seen too many Ks, so we're upgrading. We can then head to the dyno and see what this thing actually makes in its stock form. Of course, no one has time for stock, so we're upgrading our brakes to do some DBA T2 Street Series, front and back. I've used these before and they're great, and you can see while we're doing it, just look at these old brakes. They are jank. Now to go from this crusty old disc and brake to something that actually looks half decent, what we need to do is get this caliper off. If you look at the back of the caliper, what you'll see is two bolts. What you need to do is get your ugga dugger, get it in there and ugga duck those bolts out. This way you can now pull the caliper off, leaving the disc with nothing on it. But wait, don't go and get your hammer just yet. There is an easier way. All you need is a bolt to screw into this thread right here and the actual disc will pop off on its own. But hey, don't let me stop you. If you want to swing a hammer, go and have a good time. Well, as you can see, this is disgusting. Now, with changing your brakes, you don't have to do this, but this is going to bother me. So I'm going to give this a quick clean because we're putting it on here. We will be sandblasting these, putting a rebuild kit for them, and then powder coating them again. So don't need to do it, but I'm going to do it because it's going to bother me. Anyway, let's get back into it. Where'd that paintbrush go? Toothbrush! Now that's clean, it's time to put on some grease. So what we're doing is I'm putting some grease on the bits that will slide against the pad, and then I'm reinstalling the caliper. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the actual brake pads and I'm going to grease the back of them as well. This is what DBA recommends, so that's what I'm doing. Once both pads are done and installed into the caliper, I then get the pin and put the top pin in first, followed by the backing plate, and then while holding the backing plate, I then put in the lower pin. I then use something pointy and a rubber mallet to knock these pins in, lock them into place. Well, there you go. Doesn't that look the piece? Now I'm going to do the other side because it's just a repeat of this side, but when we do the back, I'm going to get you guys again because we are doing the handbrake and also the brakes as well. So we're doing the whole thing. But man, this should actually be noticeable because that is a fair difference. All right, let's get to it. And getting to it, we did not. As you can see, the automotive supplier have given me the wrong rear boots. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to slap the original ones back in here after I've already cleaned everything around them. And we're going to have to come back and do these at a later date. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing because there is things I want to fix here. But we just slide on the new disc and just clean up the calipers and then repeat what I did with the fronts. And as you can see, this is why we actually changed them. Just look how bad the old brakes were. I'm so glad that we did them. So after doing those hand brakes and getting the rest of those brakes back together, we are here at Tokyo Motorsport. Actually, I'm next door using their driveway to chuck in these coils because I couldn't drive here because it wasn't tuned for it. But it should be all right to pot around the corner. So now that's all ready. We're going to do this now. And then we're going to take it next door to get it on the dyno. Due to Mitsubishi's Evo's popularity, there is a heap of aftermarket options when it comes to coils. You can go aftermarket coils that will bolt in the standard position, or even do these COP setups like I've got here. Now I've gone with Raceworks for a couple of reasons. One, they come with a wiring in kit to suit the standard wiring harness, so you can still have the COP with a waste spark setup. But also, it gives you the flexibility if you use a standalone ECU to have sequential ignition. Another thing I really like about the Raceworks product is it pretty much comes with everything, all the hardware to bolt this thing straight in, and the bracket by far is the nicest design on the market, as it has provisions to ensure a watertight seal on your timing cover. Now let's talk about Tokyo Motorsport. That is where we're taking the car because that's where the car was tuned previously. And as you can see by the custom cars in the car park and inside the workshop, these guys mean business. Now they've been doing Mitsubishis for a very long time, but they also do other things as well. You'll be happy to hear you can bring your Subaru down or your Toyota and they'll happily look over it. pretty much any JDM car these guys can do. That hasn't gone to plan. So apparently there's something going on with these coils, so they've put back to the standard ones, and hopefully we can actually get a good power figure out of this. Ugh, looks like there is limitations to what that standard auto ECU can do. Alright, let's stop mucking around. The tuner is jumping in the car. Let's see what this Evo GT-A can make after we went from auto to manual. So while that car is cooling down, let's look at the results of that run. First off, we made 258 horsepower at the hubs with a fuel ratio of 11.5. The car is running on 98 octane, and also we were running boost pressures of 23.4 psi. Now just remember that the GT-A does have a smaller turbo, but let's flick over to the dyno chart now. Now as you can see, most things are ending around 5,500 RPM. As you can see, this green line, I wish that was my power line. That is your torque. The yellow is the boost, and obviously the blue is your power. Now the tuner's ready, so let's see what this car makes after his adjustments. Well, there you go. How awesome was that? Now, before we go through all the data, let's talk to Jamie, the owner and tuner of Tokyo Motorsport. All right, so guys, here I'm standing next to Jamie, who obviously is the tuner here at Tokyo Motorsport, yep. But you've also been running the business here, and you've built this amazing workshop. Now, it's 17 years old, is that right?
Yes, we started in 2007, so yeah, it's been a while. We had a much smaller workshop around the corner. And now we have grown, and here we are in a much bigger shop. So,
oh, dude, this shop is sick.
Yeah,
and you're still running the same dyno?
Yes.
So, quick question, what type of dyno brand is this?
So this is a Dyno pack. It's a Kiwi brand, it's a hub dyno. We take the wheels off and we bolt the hub packs almost straight to the wheels, eliminates any slip. It's very, very quiet, it's very repeatable. You can lay run over run over run, and it's very, very precise. A little bit longer to set it up, but you know, the extra time you take for setting them up, actually, you get back in repeatability and reliability and no chance of any wheel slip.
Yeah, I was going to say, usually these use an eddy brake. Are these still using an eddy brake, or is this using like some sort of coolant system?
This is different. So this runs, they are hydraulic pump motors in reverse. So instead of putting hydraulic pressure in and getting rotation out, we put rotation in and we get hydraulic pressure out. And there's a very crafty little valve body on the side that cool. Just closes off the fluid. From the pressure of the fluid, it manages to calculate torque, and then it calculates or counts wheel speed by some sensors, and it uses the torque and the RPM to produce power numbers. It's very accurate, very repeatable.
That's so cool. All right, so cool. Yeah, obviously not the normal way they do it.
Yeah.
But no, that's wicked. So you guys are known for doing Mitsubishis and all this sort of stuff. What would you say is the higher end of the scale for your Mitsubishis that you've had on the dyno here or you've had around the track?
Yeah, okay.
So what type of builds would you say is a more high end?
So we do a lot of tarmac rally stuff.
Yep.
So, and some circuit cars as well, predominantly, but definitely tarmac rally stuff. So we use Nitto 2.2 litre engines. We often run them E85 with stock frame or slightly larger turbos. So the numbers we're getting out of those cars is 600 to 650 horsepower are the numbers we usually go for. If you want to keep them reliable, keep them in one piece, those numbers will last for a while. We have done higher power cars before. We've done a GT-A Skyline before. It made 1,000 horsepower on the dyno. So that was a totally different kettle of fish.
That's sick.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, a bit of a one-off that. But yeah, we're usually in that sort of 6 to 650 at the hubs. They manage to stay in one piece like that. We don't have to go to billet blocks or billet heads or anything like that. So yeah, it's achievable, again and again, repeatable.
I mean, that's not to laugh at, because obviously your rally cars, I just had a look through the workshop, and I've noticed you guys have stripped these things down to pretty much nothing. Do you know roughly what they weigh when they're being stripped down a little bit?
Question that, they can be anything from 1,200 to 1,350
So light.
kilos, depending how much effort you put in on the weight saving.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so powder weight's pretty good. Yeah.
Now that's wicked. Now I was going to say, now we did run into some issues, or you guys run into some issues with my core packs. Now,
sure did.
Now we're running the standard GTA computer. Now that's obviously not the normal.
Yep.
So what did you find? You got a theory about it?
Yeah, so what we found is, and it's particularly pertinent with the GT-A ECU, is that there is a limit to the amount of current you can put through the standard coil drivers in the ECU. So what that basically means is if you put, say, coils in there that have got very low internal resistance, they will draw too much current. The ECU sees it as an overload, turns the coils off, stops the engine.
So it's really bringing up a safety feature inside the ECU.
Yeah.
Which is good.
It is.
But a pain.
It's a pain. It's not something we've seen too much of, but we have seen it. So when yours presented with that problem, I was straight onto it and realised that I've seen this before. So we just took the original coils out of the boot, put them back in the car.
Well, I mean, you get that with experience, obviously, for doing it so long. I was going to ask, do you really need to change to coilover plug for, like, when do you say enough is enough for the standard coils?
Well, we have got some pretty big horsepower cars out there with standard coils in them. Running aftermarket ECUs, you can turn the dwell up, get a bit more energy out of the coils, and we have cars, again, 650 on standard set of coils.
Wow.
But, you know, if you want to fire them individually with an aftermarket ECU, as opposed to being wasted spark, like the traditional two-coil setup is, you definitely need, obviously, a plug and a coil individually per cylinder.
Yeah, so there's one for sale now, guys. You can come buy that off me because I'm not going to be using it. That's really good. Now, any other limitations with the GTA ECUs, or they're pretty good, you reckon?
They are pretty good. Limitation is around the software. The GTA software, we all use open source software. The number of tables in that software suite are very limited, so there is definitely some limitations there. The next step would almost certainly be to put an aftermarket ECU in there. Link ECU, for example, would do the job.
And you're using an Evo scan to get in there, or?
We use ECU Flash for the tuning, obviously also known as open source, and then we use Evo Scan for logging. So log the parameters and then use ECU Flash, which are making changes. Yeah, we've used ECU Tech in the past for these as well. I think the open source on this particular platform is every bit as good. So you don't need to necessarily go the extra mile for the extra product there, but ECU Tech does come into its own with other things.
That's awesome. I've got to say now, you've obviously seen my nugget. One of the cheapest Evos in Western Australia at the moment was only paid $16,500 for it. I thought it was pretty cheap. Thank you. Now, we've put the manual transmission in there. How do you reckon I went with that?
Well, it starts and runs and drives, so you must have done it all right. Obviously, there's definitely some details around the clutch pedal assembly that need reinforcing, which is always the way of the GTA conversion. Otherwise, seems good.
He's definitely seen people put holes in their firewalls by not doing the brackets. So
it will always happen. The GTA chassis does not have the bracket that supports the top of the clutch pedal assembly. You have to add that afterwards.
So that's something we definitely will have to do when we get back to Albany. Matt, you were pretty happy with the power that little turbo made. Yeah,
it turns out that the little GT-A turbo will actually go a little bit further than I thought. I think maybe the manual transmission is a little bit less load on it, and it went 200 kilowatts at the hubs, which I was not expecting.
I'm stoked with that. That's so good.
400 newton meters and 200 kilowatts at 1.6 bar.
It's going to feel like a little go-kart, I reckon.
It's going to be good.
One more question before we go, and I'm pretty sure... Okay, so if you were going to build this, right, let's say my goal was 400 horsepower.
300 kilowatts at the hubs, Yep.
Kilowatts. What would you do? If it was on a budget, what was you're like, okay, this is the main things we got to do to get to that power?
Power is always about the turbo. So you need a turbo that's going to flow enough air to make you 400 horsepower. The easiest way to do it is on the E85. You can actually get there with a stock engine. So you would need exhaust manifold, turbo, bigger injectors, bigger fuel pump, E85, turn it up with some cams, and you'll get there.
That's awesome. Hey, Jamie, thank you so much, man.
All, man.
And that's wicked, guys. So we get to see it drive now.
Yeah.
What do you reckon it'll do down the quarter? 16 seconds?
Let me know.
I will do. No worries. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.
How good is that? 200 kilowatt or 270 horsepower. How good is that out of a stock Evo? Just an exhaust, pretty much all I've done on that car, and a retune with changing the auto to a manual. I mean, that's pretty awesome. 400 Nm of torque with 24 PSI. Now that turbo is pretty small, as Jamie said, so the things we can do is upgrade the turbo, which I've already bought. We're putting an Evo9 turbo on there, so some of you guys want to see what the difference of going from a GT-A EVO7 turbo to a manual Evo9 turbo. That's something you're going to look forward to. We're also going to do everything else that Jamie said, except with the cams, we're going to go nitrous, I think, instead. Just because we want to stay true to what the actual Fast and Furious car was, and it was a nitrous car. So I think that's what we're going to do instead. Money spent to that instead of putting cams in. Also, if you guys like that stuff and like watching us, we do have other projects like this twin turbo Tron that we're doing. Obviously, Josh's single turbo Pajero, Lao one, Turbo Magna. I mean, we like to play around with many toys. I also have a Valiant with a Bauer engine in it that we're going to get back into shortly because we are pretty much finishing up a couple of VR projects, which is pretty exciting. If you like what you're watching, like I said, subscribe maybe, like, be more than welcome to. And what we're doing right now also on our website is we're giving away the 2500 Elites for $150 off. And that is just for everyone who puts in this code. And yeah, so you guys can enjoy some of that as well. And if you want to get your Evo or really any Mitsubishi, Subaru, Toyota tuned and you're in Perth, hit up the boys at Tokyo Motorsport. They are lovely. Jamie's a great guy. And there's plenty to do at the workshop while you wait for your car. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at there. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you on the next one.